It's BS. It's ridiculous. Is that true? There's no way. America's got to do something about this stuff. Where is this? That's a beautiful square. It's crazy. Crazy expensive. What is up? Welcome back. Today I'm reacting to a video titled 10 Freedoms You Have in Poland, but Not in America. Let's get into it. What's up? If you haven't met me yet, my name is Aaron, and this is Aaron Arnold Reacts. Through this channel, I'm discovering everything about Europe, Poland included, the people, the culture, the history, the sports, the food, anything you can imagine. The goal of this channel is to laugh together, to learn together, and to have fun together. I post videos every single day, and I hope you will join me going forward. So make sure to hit like and subscribe. Now, let's get into this video.
America is one of the freest countries in the world, but how true is that? Today we're going to talk about the 10 ways where Poland is actually freer than America.
Whoa, okay.
Please tell me I'm not the only one that thinks tipping culture is absolutely ridiculous.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
It's gotten to the point where people who are working at cafes, self-serve yogurt shops, I'm doing all the work, but I still have to tip the person that's working behind the counter? That doesn't make any sense to me. And as you travel around the world, you realize this tipping thing is kind of crazy because it's not the
It's BS. He was going to say it. He didn't want to say it. It's BS. It's ridiculous.
responsibility of the consumers to pay the wage of the workers. That's the owner's job.
Doesn't make sense.
The freedom of consumer protections. Something that bugged me a little bit when I first arrived to Europe was like every time you go to a new website, they ask you for permission if they can get your information or cookies, and you have to accept or reject. And I'm like, this is getting tedious having to do this for every website. But then I realized in America, they don't even ask you. They just take your information away.
They just take it. They just take it. That's so true. So in Europe, you have to say yes. In America, you have to find out how to say no because it's yes until you say no. So it's backwards, but that's completely true.
And they give it to other people. Is it just me, or is it annoying how every single thing now requires you to make an account? Like, can I
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
just enjoy it without having to make an account? I don't know who has my phone number, who has my email. I'm getting all these spam messages everywhere. It's crazy, right? Here in Europe, they have a lot of protections for that. Whoa. So over time, I'm like, okay.
Cameraman fell. Cameraman just wiped out right there.
You know, there are some EU rules that I think are beneficial to the consumer. Apparently, there's also this rule where you can return items after 14 days for whatever reason whatsoever. I'm not entirely sure how true that is.
Wait a second. You can return after 14 days no matter the reason in the EU? Is that true? There's no way. Is that actually like upheld? Or is that just, you know, one of those rules that nobody actually listens to?
But it's nice that here they protect the consumer in a lot of ways. Number 8, the freedom to be able to raise independent kids. One of the most beautiful things about this country is when I'm on public transportation in the center of the city.
I think I know where he's going right here. There's kids all over these buses, even like little kids just walking around. I hope that's what he's going to say because that is, to me, an American, that is like the coolest thing in the world to see that these kids have so much freedom to do that.
And I see kids that are 8 years old, 10 years old, traveling by themselves or with their friends without any adult supervision. This is one of the reasons why I really like public transportation as well, because it's accessible to everybody. When it's connected to all over the city, you can pretty much do whatever you want. People are very connected to their family, but a level of independence, especially with the women, seems to be encouraged because Poland is so homogenous. Society watches over your kids for you to a certain extent, right?
Wow, that's cool. Okay, so Poland is so welcoming, safe, and protective that these kids are safe. And every single adult in this country are looking after all the kids, not just their own. That's really a nice society.
There are certain lines that won't be crossed in public, such as hitting a woman in public is definitely not encouraged here. I think men will stand up for that. When you're on the public transportation, the young people, boys and girls, will give up their seat for older people, which
They should. That's great.
I also find very beautiful. Safety is also very important here. If you compare the murder rate or just any rate, to be honest, whether it comes to theft, to sexual abuse, to violent crime, it's significantly less than it is in the US. America used to be like that too. When everybody's optimistic, the country is progressing forward, people are getting richer, there is no reason for people to commit crime. One of the big freedoms you have here in Poland is the ability to say what you want. When it comes
Okay, that sounds really nice. Because, yeah, I think he's about to talk about how America is just not like that anymore.
to humor and just making jokes in general, there's a much higher tolerance for what you can say here as opposed to America, where everybody's trying to correct other people on what's offensive and what's not. I've heard that
It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's definitely changing now in America because people are getting really sick of this PC behavior. But I
So true,
recently
actually.
saw this video of a senator asking a doctor, can a biological man get pregnant?
Dr. Verma, I wasn't sure I understood your answer to Senator Moody a moment ago. Do you think that men can get pregnant?
And she refuses to answer still. And this is supposed to be a scientist.
I also think yes/no questions like this are a political tool.
I think the
There's so many issues in the government and the society. America's got to do something about this stuff.
intention behind political correctness is good, but the way that it is enforced is very unrealistic. For example, like if you're in a group with a bunch of guys, we're gonna be talking shit. We're gonna be saying a bunch of effed up jokes, but that's how we bond. And I'm pretty sick and tired of people policing me on what I can or cannot say, especially when it comes to making fun of my own race. There's this weird thing in America where people will get offended on my behalf, which I think is really, really weird. Whereas here, we're allowed to joke about ourselves, and I have a very diverse friend group. There are jokes everywhere, but in my opinion, when you're among friends, these are some of the funniest jokes that you can make, right? So I don't think that you should muzzle people because it doesn't maybe sound nice to you. Here in Poland,
Wes seems like a really genuine, cool guy, to be honest.
people don't care that much. People have a dark sense of humor in a good way, so you're able to pretty much talk about whatever you want.
That's
I
great.
love that. If you are thinking about moving to Poland, I highly recommend this for people who come from Polish families. If you're Asian, if you're American, especially if you're conservative, Poland is an amazing place to live. If you guys are
Great.
curious and are thinking about moving to Poland, I highly recommend setting a meeting with me here.
Oh,
Number
okay.
6, the freedom of not needing a car. This is one of the most annoying things about America in general. And yes, certain cities have good public transportation, but in general, America is a car-first society. So that means that when you
1000%. I don't even have a sidewalk where I live. You have to take the car. There's no biking. There's no bus, no train. You take the car. That's it.
move to America, number one, you have to find a place to rent, but number two, you also have to have a vehicle. Maintaining a vehicle is so expensive with all the fees that you have to pay just for the car itself, plus insurance, plus gas. And I didn't realize how much money I was saving until I left the US and I sold my car, and I'm like, yo, it's nice having a car, but is it worth all the headache and responsibility? Not really. I also love that in Europe, you can pretty much use public transportation for everything. You can take trains or planes to go to other countries. You can use trains to pretty much get to any city here in Poland. They have a really good tram system here in Warsaw.
Yeah, I've actually heard that Poland has an amazing train system. I took the train from Gdansk to Gdynia, and then I also took the train from Gdansk to Malbork, because I went to Malbork Castle. And the train was clean. It was fast. It was really nice. So that was really one of my first experiences with the train, but it was amazing. So I'm pretty sure Poland has one of the best train systems. Is that right or not?
Warsaw, they have a metro system as well. The public transport infrastructure in many places around the world is excellent. And I wish that America was like that, but unfortunately, it is not.
Yeah. Work-life protections,
Also,
okay.
because Poland is a European country, there are a lot of work-life protections when it comes to, for example, maternity leave, when it comes to unemployment, when it comes to ZUS, just the social security and the insurance that you get from the government is actually quite good, even though you have to pay into that. The fact that you don't have a lot of debt when you graduate university is a huge plus. I like Poland because it has a lot of capitalistic
Where is this? That's a beautiful square. It's really, really nice.
tendencies, but it borrows from Europe in a lot of ways, where there's a lot more protection focused on the worker instead of big corporations, even though here in Poland it is still quite capitalistic. You must take 14 consecutive days at the minimum of vacation, and you get 20 to 26 days paid mandatory leave, whereas in the US you have 0 days legally required. You get an average of 10 to 15 days, but often combines unpaid and paid sick leave. And Polish people actually use their vacation without guilt. I think Europeans in
Wait a second. They said that the average in the US is 10 paid days of vacation a year. I mean, I'm sure to a European that's like criminal, because I'm thinking about it right now and it's absolutely criminal. I mean, that's not justified in any way. I mean, how can they tell someone, hey, you give me 360 days out of the year, I'm going to give you these 5 and you can have those, lucky you. Oh my gosh, it's terrible.
Americans in general are totally cool with using their vacation. Maternity leave here is quite generous, at least compared to America. I think America is probably like the worst place to raise a family because just there are no protections for mothers that want to go on maternity leave, but it seems that that's still somewhat encouraged here in Poland. One of the cool things I like about this country is that as a young person, if you're under 26, you do not have to pay income tax. So all
No way. That's a cheat code. Under 26, no income tax. There's no exceptions to that? That sounds amazing.
all the money that you get goes directly to your pocket. You
Wait. So even the people who don't go to university, that people who just start working at 18, no income tax, that's a way to give a head start to a young person. That's great.
graduate university with little debt or no debt, and you get zero income tax until you're 26. Most things, if you're a student, are also half price. For example, public transportation tickets, even the trains going to other cities, public transportation for the metro or tram in the city, you get half price on all of it. It does seem heavily favored towards the youth and allowing the younger people to be able to make more money and keep their money. I think one of the most effed up parts of the US is how everybody is in debt. In credit card debt, in student loan debt, there are so many forms of debt in the US. It's absolutely crazy. I believe the average debt for the American citizen is around $30,000 to $40,000.
That's terrible. I mean, how do you get ahead when you're constantly having to pay? I mean, it's a tough system. And the problem too is in today's society, everyone's encouraged to go to college, which is great for most people. But for a lot of people, it might be a better choice just to start working, you know, because then they go to college for 4 years and they come out of college and they're like, I don't know what to do. What do I do? And then here they are with a student debt that they can't pay back. It's terrible.
If you can believe that. The biggest culprit is university and also healthcare. Americans were wealthier than many people around the world, but a lot of our economy is funded by debt. Is that really real wealth? A lot of my European friends are maybe poorer than some of my American friends, but almost none of them have student debt. Almost none of them have credit card debt. Maybe it's a consumer's culture, how there are no rules. For example, in gambling, when it comes to sports events, every sports channel and sports events now promotes gambling so much, which I think is so ridiculous.
It's terrible. The American sports society is just crumbling. There's so much betting. It's just check it out after this video. It's insane.
Polish people are just not as mature.
Actually, I just remembered I did a video on the US NFL football game and like why it's crazy, because out of basically 3 hours of watching the Super Bowl, you only see 11 minutes of real actual playing game time. 11 minutes out of 3 hours. That just tells you about the society and the marketing and gambling and just all that culture.
Materialist as Americans are. Yes, they are European, but they're like new Europeans, so they kind of have this mix of both Western and Eastern culture, which I love a lot. Now that I don't have any student loans or credit card debt, I feel so much happier and at peace, and I can't believe that the majority of Americans have to suffer through that for years even after they graduate, right? It's kind of a scam if you think about it. So let's talk about gun violence for a second.
Oh gosh.
I personally enjoy living in countries where the vast majority of the population does not have guns. I think it heavily decreases the murder rate. I am conservative in America, but I don't agree with the population having guns. It is a lot of power for the average person to hold. I think it gives a lot of Americans this God complex that nobody can tell me what to do because I have a gun backing me up. But if you live in a society where...
Okay, that's fair, but I will say like most Americans don't have guns. I mean, it's not like every single American has a gun. So that's just one caveat you need to understand about that.
Or you have to defend yourself physically with fists, no weapons involved. I think it keeps a lot of people in check. I'm a Chinese guy. I'm not very tall. I'm fit. I can probably hold myself in a fight, but I am not going to be fighting these 6 feet Polish guys who look like
the average Polish guy right there. Wow.
Beat me up, okay? So because I'm not the biggest, throughout my life, I've always had to find ways to cooperate and handle conflicts peacefully without resorting to violence. If you're in a culture where violence is a norm and everybody wants to fight, or like in the US where it's super easy for people to get a gun and everybody has a mental illness nowadays for some reason, I would rather live in a country like Poland where things are very safe.
Where is that? That looks so nice. Nice, new, clean. Wait a second. Is that Gdansk? Right by that mall? I forget what the mall's called. I think that is. And there's a bookstore down there on the left where that guy's about to walk in. Maybe I'm just seeing things, but I'm pretty sure that's Gdansk.
People are actually allowed to have guns here. The amount of guns per population is way lower than it is in the US. Also, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but if I were to send my kids to school in the US, there's always this fear in the back of your head that what if some school shooting happens? There were a couple of these situations at my high school when I was growing up. Nothing really
Really?
happened, but the police were called and threats were made, and it was just this whole fiasco.
Oh
Number
gosh.
two, the freedom from crippling medical debt. This is one of the biggest problems of the US. We have very good healthcare quality-wise, but when it comes to paying for it, pricing,
It's crazy expensive. It's crazy expensive. It's like so sad. It's crazy. Crazy expensive.
everything is so confusing and extremely overpriced. It's another scam, in my opinion. Here in Poland, the public healthcare is not the best. However, they do have private insurance here.
Wait, it's not the best. I would imagine that Poland has pretty good healthcare.
Expat, I think, is one of the big ones. I believe it costs like a couple $100s a month, and this is for the top tier premium private insurance. Also,
okay.
if you were to pay out of pocket without insurance, things cost less or the same as the copay you would pay in the US, and medication in general here is just a lot cheaper. I think a lot of people in America are so scared of going to the doctor or having anything bad happen to them because the bills that come in will just completely ruin people, from ambulance fees, hospital fees. There are so many stories about that online. In America, if an ambulance came to my house and I stepped in the ambulance just for 1 second, boom, you get charged $2,000, $3,000, $5,000.
What?
It's just so unclear in the US. This is something I think about a lot, especially as I get older. Now that I'm past 30 years old, health is up.
Wait, this guy's 30? He doesn't look 30. I have to say, though, I'm curious. Can you tell me a little bit more about the Polish health insurance and healthcare? Because I would imagine it does pretty good, especially since Poland's such a high-tech society. I imagine that it's even getting better now, obviously always improving, but I would imagine it's pretty good.
A much higher priority. Number one, the freedom to not have to worry about your safety. I
Safety.
cannot tell you how much peace I feel being able to walk around in the city at any point during the day or nighttime and feel safe that nothing bad is going to happen to me. I think the worst.
That sounds so nice. Poland really, I believe, is a safe country. And it's really nice to hear that in Poland, like, especially ladies, young ladies, they can walk alone by themselves and they can go even late at night by themselves and not feel like scared or anything like that. That's really, really nice to hear.
Worst extreme was when I was in Colombia, Latin America, and I was on edge all the time, even though I lived in one of the safest cities in Colombia. Now I live in Warsaw. It's a capital city, and considering that it's a capital city, it's very safe and there's very low levels of crime here. Homogenous societies in general tend to be a lot safer, especially countries that have a proper winter. There is a correlation between temperature and crime rates, actually,
Wow.
if you guys didn't know about it. But also, I believe Poland as a country has this sense of doing what's right and what's wrong.
I swear, Poland is so clean and so nice. I mean, every image I see when I was visiting, it's just all clean. Like,
Also
jeez.
very similar to a lot of Asian countries. We just have a societal standard for what's correct and what's not correct. Police officers here enforce the law, and I believe in general society does respect police officers. Whereas in America, it's this weird 50-50 split where there's a lot of people that are fighting against law enforcement in your own country and supporting people breaking the laws. I think one of the things
Which is
that Asians
crazy.
and Poles have in common is a standard of cleanliness and order, but also an adherence to the rules, right? If somebody breaks
Okay.
the rules, they should be arrested or jailed. And there's a pretty hard line on what's correct and what's not correct. Whereas in America, it feels like things are a lot more moldable. You should be able to say, hey, I don't want people coming into my country illegally, and I want the government to enforce our laws of our country. But saying that in America makes you a racist, makes you a Trump lover, makes you a Republican, all this BS. For me, the most important thing is not what feels good, but
crazy.
what actually works to help maintain a proper society. And I think safety and rule and order is the number one thing that you need to prioritize, because once you have that foundation of rule and order, then you can build everything on top of that. And a lot of people just have this weird disrespect for the police when they're just trying to do their job. Look,
Yeah.
are there bad police officers out there? 100%. Are they the majority? Heck no. And it's really difficult to be a police officer. And this is why I have a tremendous amount of respect for law enforcement in general, because a lot of these guys are just trying to do their job. I'm not trying to justify bad police officers. I would rather live in a society that overall has a respect for law enforcement rather than trying to impede law enforcement from doing their job. Something to think about. And this is why, if you have the means, I highly recommend living in other places. If you have Polish descent, so your parents or your grandparents are from
Bonus
Poland,
tip.
you are
Let's
able
go.
to come back to the country without problem. There's just some documentation that you have to do to prove that you're Polish. If you're a wealthy individual, I highly recommend getting a second passport. passport. There are a lot of countries around
What's the terms in Poland? Is it easy to get that, or is it really difficult? Because, I'm actually really interested in Poland. I think it's an amazing country.
the world that offer citizenship by investment, by family, by real estate. For example, if you have an EU passport, you can stay in any European country without a problem. So I highly recommend working with my friend Rafael at the Wealthy Expat. The world now is so crazy. We have no idea what's going to happen from year to year. So being able to have that flexibility and be able to move when you need to is very important.
Incredible video. I really liked how he broke that down, and he really honestly told the ins and outs of the US and Poland. It was nice to hear that because I can relate to the US side and I'm learning about the Polish side. That was really, really nice. If you have any videos that I should watch, something similar to this, talking about maybe the healthcare or the society and maybe even some of the cultural differences about Poland, I would love to dive into that. Poland's a beautiful country. I can't wait to explore it more. If you want to see another video just like this one, make sure you hit like and subscribe, and I will see you in the very next video. Cheers.